Deputy Chief, UNDRR Asia Pacific, and Professor Santosh Kumar, Head GIDRR and former ED and IDM. They both would be joining us virtually. So may I hand over to Professor Anil Gupta for his opening remarks.
Very good morning.
Recording in progress.
I welcome all the delegates on this third day of very important strategic occasion, that is Resilience and Sustainability Summit, RESSUMMIT 2047. The journey in disaster risk reduction of over 3 decades has brought many new paradigms. With the experience of the past and the context of the present, but it is equally important that we start peeping into the future. Because if we look at past 25 or 30 years, we see that there has been disruptive transformations. Disruptive not referring in terms of negative one, but highly transformative. There has been disruptive change in the area of technology, particularly communication technology, computer, robotics. Now we are moving ahead in nanotechnology, but also disruptive transformations in social settings. Our lifestyles also undergone huge change. And in fact, the future is likely to bring much more such changes. So it's very important that we also start looking at what kind of disaster risk we are going to have in future and how do we prepare more effectively. Climate change is one of the major contributors to increasing intensity and frequency of disaster risk. So this forum, which have the senior professionals, senior officials, scientists, academicians, practitioners, civil society, it's a unique forum, and on this third day we are moving towards achieving the key recommendations and directions for achieving this target. So I welcome you all. This very, very important occasion of very important occasion of this very important keynote address by none other than the high-level dignitary from the United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction. The UNDRR is an umbrella organization of the United Nations at the global level, which provides an assemblage, which provides a platform for discourse and actions on various aspects of disaster risk reduction. It draws guidelines together with the partners, and India has been one of the key players and a key member of UNDRR, taking significant strides. In Asia Pacific, that is a home to all kind of major disasters. We had significant experience in the past. So Asia Pacific is the true laboratory of disaster management and disaster risk reduction. So a keynote address from none other than Ms. Diana Patricia would really help us in identifying the key context of future DRR journey, also not leaving aside the lessons of the past. I welcome Ms. Diana at this occasion, and I also welcome the two dignitaries on dais with me. Professor V.K. Sharma, he is Subhash Chandra Bose Apada Prabandhan Awardee. He is Vice Chairman of Sikkim State Disaster Management Authority, a Senior Professor of Indian Institute of Public Administration, and in fact a pioneer of disaster management and the first coordinator of National Institute of Disaster Management. That was, by that time, it was known as National Center for Disaster Management. I welcome you, sir, at this occasion. I welcome Shri Rajen Singh Ji. Rajen Singh Ji is Honorable Member of National Disaster Management Authority. We all know that India has a tiered approach, and within the legal and institutional system, NDMA is the apex authority chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister to provide broad guidelines and policies for all the the systems, all the institutions, including the state governments, local governments, NIDM and many other institutions for the journey, for their efforts in disaster risk reduction. I welcome you, sir, at this occasion and thank you for approaching. I also welcome Professor Santosh Kumar, who is head of GIDRR, NIDM, and also the former executive director of NIDM. He was also the director of SARC Disaster Management Center. So South Asian contexts are also important. So 3 dignitaries. Professor Santosh Kumar is out of station because of some very important assignment. So he has joined online. I welcome you, Professor Santosh Kumar. Now I can see you and thank you for being able to join. I know that you are in a place where network is a trouble, but it's really a pleasure to see you.
Thank you very much.
So all 3 dignitaries with us.
Good morning to
Professor V.K. Sharma, Rajan Singh sir, and Professor Santosh Kumar, and really wonderful to welcome Dr. Diana Patricia, who will be delivering a keynote, and then our dignitaries will give their remarks that how the messages from her keynote should be translated in the national and the regional context. I think there is some problem with the screen. Kindly correct it immediately. Ji sir. What happened to the screen? Kindly bear with us, maybe a few seconds the technical glitch will be fixed. Thank you and great. We could resume it very shortly, and so with the permission of the chair, should I invite the keynote speaker? Yeah. So I invite the keynote speaker of today, Dr. Diana, to deliver her keynote, and then I would be requesting the dignitaries to give their key remarks. Dr. Diana, over to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor Gupta and all the dignitaries. Good morning to everyone. Just checking if you can hear me. Sure. Thank you very much again. So I must start by saying that for me to give these keynote remarks at this very important Resilience and Sustainability Summit Vision 2047. On behalf of the UNDRR Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, we appreciate extremely the opportunity to intervene in this space together with so very distinguished dignitaries and panelists. As we know, our region is significant risk, as mentioned by Professor Gupta, and some of the important challenges are that, in fact, we are far to be on track of reducing risk. Human action is creating great and more risk, and it's being intensified by emerging situations such as climate change, COVID-19, and other emerging risks. Systemic risks are undermining sustainable development, and human choices are driving vulnerability and exposure and increasing losses. It is true that we have done, as a DRR community, important progress in reducing mortality and affected people. But also, it's important to say that losses and economic losses are also increasing, and exposure of population will be higher in the upcoming years due to emerging issues as mentioned. So to build resilience and prevent future shocks, it is very important to learn from past disasters. And as Professor Gupta mentioned, unfortunately in the Asia Pacific, we have a laboratory of different events and a high degree of exposure. So it's very important to learn from past disasters and anticipate future risk and promote a culture of prevention. Specifically, we need to strengthen risk governance, better understanding of risk, build resilience for the most vulnerable, and put in place multi-hazard early warning systems and dedicated funding. The biggest lesson of the pandemic, or one of the biggest lessons, is the need to strengthen systemic risk governance. So it is a whole of government and whole of society effort that brings together different ministries and sectors. Health, environment, climate, risk reduction can work and can function separated. This is why the Global Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction in 2022, where India was represented at the highest level, called for transformation of risk governance mechanisms to ensure that management of risk is a shared responsibility across sector, system, scales, and borders. Risk governance at the national, regional, and global level is vital to build resilience in all sectors and ensuring the coherence of national and local frameworks and laws, regulations, public policies that, by defining roles and responsibilities, guide, encourage, and incentivize the public and private sectors to take action and address disaster risk. Establishing and maintaining a strong and inclusive governance system integrated with climate change adaptation and sustainable development should be the key objective to drive this sustainable development. For that matter, the UN system and stakeholders, governments, civil society, and other partners work with member states to develop and implement resilience strategies and the related frameworks. In this sense, to support risk-informed governance and decision-making, there needs to be a strong understanding of risk in all its dimensions, a better understanding of the shifting nature of risk driven by the interdependencies of our societies and the global economy is essential for accelerating risk-informed action by governments, communities, and businesses. This is why it is critical to have a robust disaster risk information system that collects the most relevant data, including sex, age, and disability disaggregated data, and overlays it on future risk assessment and data on past disasters. We need to ensure open access to different sources of data and information. As we recommend also in the Sendai Framework Midterm Review, we need to support the generation of more scientific and technological solutions that are integrated with local, indigenous, and traditional knowledge to build and inform progress across the different sectors. We also need to focus on preventing new risk and reducing existing risk by integrating more nature-based solutions and ecosystems services in disaster risk reduction related activities. Another important aspect to prepare for future shocks is the need to build the resilience of the most vulnerable in society. This is why engagement, empowerment, and strengthening the capacity of local NGOs and local actors, local governments, and various stakeholders is needed to mobilize all of society and reach those who might be left behind. Concretely, for example, we need to ensure that a human rights-based approach is adopted with inclusive processes and implementation as well as diverse leadership. With such an approach, we could strengthen the recovery and ensure greater participation by those affected by disasters and enhance accountability from national and local authorities. We also must ensure that social safety nets are better integrated into early warning systems and anticipatory action to enable risk reduction. A concrete example of this and very interesting initiative is the Making Cities Resilience 2030, which is particularly relevant for Asia Pacific, given the high urbanization rate and the high capacity that is needed by local governments. The impact of disasters is most felt at the local level, and indeed, the vast majority of disasters tend to be small local events, which don't often make the news, but still impact lives and livelihoods. Initiatives like Making Cities Resilience and many other local level initiatives seek to help local governments to improve how they understand, plan, and implement resilience building measures. This type of initiative needs to be spread. Very importantly, we must say that not all risks can be mitigated or reduced 100%, unfortunately. Residual risk will always be a reality, And in that case, it is important to have adaptation measures that can address this residual risk. One very important measure is multi-hazard early warning systems that we have seen through the last decades that have importantly contributed to reduce disaster mortality. They can provide communities with enough time to take actions that save lives, property and farms, and even infrastructure, and reducing the economic impact of natural hazards. Countries with a strong early warning systems have 8 times fewer deaths than countries without. Also, a warning by 24 hours can cut economic damage by 30%. We might discuss the figures, but we have evidence that early warning systems contribute importantly to reducing mortality and economic losses. At COP27, the UN Secretary General launched the Executive Action Plan for the Early Warning for All initiative and asked that the World Meteorological Organization and UNDRR, with all the partners in the DRR community, co-lead an advisory board to ensure its effective implementation. If fully implemented through the support of all partners and donors, this plan will ensure that every person on the planet is covered by early warning system by 2027. Importantly as well, the financing aspect. Without resources, implementation of policies and strategies, it's not possible. All these efforts depend on resources, which is why increasing dedicated funding for DRR and climate change adaptation should be a priority. Actually, disaster risk reduction accounts for less than 5% of global ODA. Post-shock assistance, response, reconstruction, relief, and rehabilitation receive over 20 times the funding compared to prevention and preparedness. I understand and we know that member states are doing important efforts from moving from a very response-focused approach to a prevention approach, and we are willing to work together towards this evolving situation. We need to increase capital investment and financing and social expenditures that are required to mitigate disaster risk. And of course, involve the private sector. It is also important to revisit public financing mechanisms to invent means of financing prevention. Overall, to build disaster risk resilience and prepare for future climate shocks, it is important to adopt a comprehensive approach that includes risk management, risk assessment, and risk reduction to build a more resilient society. I think that forum is one example of a multi-stakeholder dialogue that is needed to see the different views and the different aspects from different sectors that we can take into account, working together as a DRR community to move forward our collective objective, which is to reduce risk and achieving a vision, in this case 2047, and working also with members in the region to contribute to this very important vision. I cannot thank enough the opportunity to be here and provide these humble key remarks, and I look forward for the discussions and the outcomes of the event.
Thank you, Dr. Diana Patricia, and thank you to Dr. Marco for supporting this Resilience and Sustainability Summit. And this keynote has been very, I would say that...
Your voice is not coming.
Whose voice?
It's low sound.
Hello? Is it okay now?
You need to check up your mic, is not coming anything.
Hello? Dr. Diana, can you hear me?
You can, but very low.
Okay, I'll move to the podium. Thank you, Dr. Diana. Am I audible now? Thank you. There has been some technical glitch. My apology for this, but anyway, we could hear you well, clear and loud, and your message is very clear. And in fact, that also outlines some of the key issues for the future strategy for disaster risk reduction. We could improve a lot in early warning system, but now as you referred to, we'll have to work more towards reception of early warning, and then based on reception, actions on the early warning. And I think those are very important things. Just to share with you that National Institute of Disaster Management with other partners recently carried out a study of two major cyclones that India faced, Amphan and Taute, on going beyond the loss and damage assessments. So on addressing the root causes of losses. So I think that's very useful. Then your address also reflected towards the professional needs at local level for carrying out various kind of assessments and then enabling various kind of planning and actions. So that's very important. And certainly all-inclusive approach is very important, as you referred to, and involvement of public sector, involvement of the corporate bodies, besides the civil society and other government and non-government actors. So these aspects which are reflected in your address are very important. Also, there is a need that the UNDRR has been referring to in the past also, and in the recent past discourses also, that countries need to work together more closely in sharing their knowledge and expertise, and then also sharing their good practices, case studies, so that we can also learn from each other. So thank you very much for your keynote address. And now I would be keen to the key remarks from the three dignitaries we have in this panel, Professor V.K. Sharma, Rajen Singh Ji, and Professor Santosh Kumar. Incidentally and very interestingly, the third day of this Resilience and Sustainability Summit, RESSUMMIT 2047, also is the day, today is the day of India's, raising of India's National Disaster Response Force. So today is the raising day for our National Disaster Response Force, NDRF, and that is also being celebrated, and shortly Honorable the Minister of State for Home Affairs would be joining there to encourage our people who go and operate disaster risk management activities in the field during disasters. So now I would like to invite Shri Rajen Singh Ji, Honorable Member and DMA, for his deliberation, for his key remarks in this keynote session.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. Dr. Dinah Pachika, Deputy Chief, UNDRR, Asia Pacific, Professor V.K. Sharma Ji, Professor Santosh Kumar, Professor Anil Ji, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me for this Resilience and Sustainability Summit 2047. India and the region is among the highly disaster-prone geographies of the world, witnessing disaster as regular features of damages and loss events. Disaster damages and losses have huge economic consequences, particularly owing to impact on infrastructure, ecosystem, and resources of people, that is, livelihood of people. Over the years, non-economic, systematic, and cascading effect of wide range of disaster have enhanced the understanding of disaster management and led to focus on underlying causes of risk and vulnerability. India has taken a big strides and leadership initiative in promoting disaster management and sustainability. NIDM is a unique professional think tank and capacity building establishment that support all sectoral ministries of the government in preparing their DM plans and state for their enhance their capabilities. The world is undergoing a huge transformations with disruptive changes in science and technology and also in social setting and values. It is also witnessing innovation in disaster management and in finding solutions to climate change induced challenges. India Vision 2047 under the Azadi Ka Mahotsav recognizes the context of changing horizons of disaster risk along with weather extremities, health epidemics, and human-induced disaster and so on. It also recognizes the advances in early warning system and risk communications, local level preparedness and capacities, and sectoral emphasis towards resilience in infrastructure, cities, industries, and communities in general. The Resilience and Sustainability Summit Vision 2047 Summit will also bring in wide range of good practices and case studies on DRR from around the global and context of India leadership role in DRR during the G20 summit. I am also very thankful to people who have joined this conference, WHO representative. There are so many other UN resident coordinators are also there, and UNDP people who have attended, and people from various ministries and various organizations, international agencies, and scientific research institutions have also joined this summit. I'm very thankful to them. I'd also like to congratulate NIDM and other partners and collaborate to conduct this high-level Resilience and Sustainability Summit 2047. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Shri Rajen Singh Ji, for encouraging all of us on this very important occasion. This Resilience and Sustainability Summit, which is organized by National Institute of Disaster Management jointly with Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, with our key partners, United Nations Development Programme and GIZ Germany India office, and more than 45 other partners including technical collaborators, UN agencies, academic partners, knowledge partners, and is being attended by more than 320 delegates across all 3 days. This is being taken, held here in this hall 5 of this conference, and also on the first floor in the exposition, where we have 9 parallel sessions with the name of Parisamvad on 9 specific topics of a special context. Here we have 13 sessions in this hall. Today's program, where we are moving towards arriving at key recommendations and key context for developing our future roadmap, is very, very important. So the keynote session is going to be very useful for us. Now I would be inviting Professor Santosh Kumar in order to avoid the risk of any kind of internet disconnectivity, because this morning we have some challenging news, like many of the delegates who are staying in our NIDM campus were flying by bus, so bus got little technical glitch, so another technical glitch. So that is the reason we are seeing here many empty chairs, and the alternative thing are being arranged so that all the delegates will be here soon. So I would be inviting Professor Santosh Kumar for his key remarks in this keynote session. Over to you, Professor Santosh, from the field on this.
Good morning, Professor Gupta and all the dignitaries on the dais.
Sir, you are not audible.
Am I audible?
Could you check your mic? Avinash, please.
Mic is, I'm already unmuted, but I don't know why
Yes,
is.
yes, you are audible, sir.
Okay. So very good morning to all the dignitaries on the dais. Rajendra Singh ji, the member of the NDMA, Professor V.K. Sharma, this Vice Chairman of the State Disaster Management Authority of Sikkim, Professor Anil Gupta, and all the distinguished guests, and most importantly, the keynote speaker, Dr. Diana from UNDRR. And also the distinguished delegates who have all joined in this program, whether online, offline. I'm grateful indeed for this opportunity. I'm sorry and my apology for addressing it from the field that is in Jaipur. Just quick points which I need to mention here. One is that the world is not going to be the same by 2047. So the contextualization of disaster risk reduction should have been in that direction also. New social order will prevail.
Satoshi, your audio.
Sir, kindly unmute yourself.
I'm already unmuted.
He's unmute. Okay.
I'm already unmuted.
So just give us a moment before we get this sorted out.
Am I audible?
Now you're audible, sir. Now you are, sir.
Thank you. My apology again, but I was unmuted from my side.
I
Anyway,
think, sir, the technical
just-
fault was from our side, something. It was nothing.
No issue.
You were
No,
always
just-
right. Thank you, sir.
Quick points I would like to make without taking much of time. One, that we say that the world would change drastically in terms of attaining that GDP. Most of the countries are striving, India too, so we are thinking of striving for 5 trillion economy. So high income would be a kind of a new order. High HDI indicators would also be there. High technological innovations would be there. But despite this, we need to recognize this, that what are the strengths which we will be having by 2047. The second, global dynamics would change, that new urban dynamics would emerge because of the urbanization process, which is being already predicted by the specialists and the scientists. New social order will also be there. We see that what kind of a changes are bringing, and that economic conditions will also will change the economic social order. Economic challenges would definitely emerge, and in this kind of a vulnerability would be different than what we are seeing it today. So these two are the context that economically the countries will grow, including India, and also India being the part of the global order. We also see that interconnectivity and interdependence would be there. So in that context, that new changes would be recognized, as we initially 20 years ago, we didn't have the institutional system for DRR. We did not have much of the act and policy and so on and so forth. In the same way, it will increase. So 3-4 points in this context I would remind in terms of that what is this inequality and poverty situation during that time. Poverty would be completely eradicated, but what I say that inequality would be high. The high income will lead to high, GDP lead to high income, but poverty eradication would also be there, but inequality is a bigger question. Whether the wealth would be distributed evenly or it will have a kind of a challenges. So those people who are living at the risk-prone areas, and if their income is not increasing and they are still into the inequality paradigm, so that would be a kind of a concern, that how we are addressing issues of inequality by 2047, and what are the mechanism and the partners which we have together, whether with the corporate, private sector, and the government and civil society group, international organizations like UNDRR, and all the SDGs agenda. Then we see at what are the reality check of the SDG by 2030, what is the agenda of COP20 reality check, and and also the Sendai framework. What we can achieve and what are the gaps which it still will not be covered. So there we need to focus that what are the gaps which we are aiming now. UNDRR is actually doing the monitoring. So we should see that where the gaps are, and we start looking for the new strategies where we can start hammering on that. And that is that important one to look at, that where the countries are lagging and which countries are doing very well. So that is another one. The fourth point which I would like to mention in terms of inclusiveness. This has been remain on the discussion for long, but actually it's not getting translated into action when we see that inclusiveness is not there, whether we talk about the children issues related to disasters, whether we talk about the women and their differential impact of disasters, whether we talk about the people who are of different kind of challenges and what are their situations and how we will actually be addressing. So that inclusiveness with the sensitiveness is another issue to be taken up for the 2047. And still what Dr. Diana mentioned about this global budget is still dedicated for response in India too. It's not a miracle, which is, even in the 15th Finance Commission, we have make a major dent by bringing recovery funding and also mitigation fund. But you see that response fund is even huge. This means this is we started with 500 crores, and today we are having more than lakh crores on the response. So there we have to see that despite the improvement in technology and other things that are institute the system, response is still the predominant in the disaster experience today. So we have to see that how we say that disaster impact and disaster effect would go to zero, or maybe the zero tolerance towards impact and effect. That is my concern. So how to go about this? And just 3 points for how to do this dilemma. I would suggest that instead of 2047 we are talking about, we should start working on different sectors which have been already proposed and must be proposing in different sessions which is going on. Incremental output. So we have to see that what are the incremental outputs coming from different sectors, by different people, by different organizations, or different contributors, be it corporate, private, institutional system. So disaster risk management remains the public good and services. How much good and services can be protected or privatized in the times to come. Then also we have to see that heterogeneity. We have to see that country like India is full of heterogeneity. And many a times we see that we say that one state is entirely different in terms of language, in terms of culture, in terms of food, everything. So in this heterogeneity, what are the homogeneous solutions which we can bring in so that risk reduction can go? And same situation arises when we talk about it. And 2 more points, that one is the social protection. And the social protection, because we see that a large number of children committed suicide during the COVID-19. And also that we say that the gender-based violence is still there in the country. And we say that large number of rapes and deaths which are happening and committing suicide is more than 95,000 deaths per year in India. So we are saying that we are not a gender-just society. So our society has to see drastically improving technology does not make much changes. Improving kind of economic income is not going to help. It's a transformation within requires. And much of the focus required on the social action, where that behavioral change is needed in terms of the responder, risk mitigation, and also the complete society. So here we have to work very, very hard on that in bringing social protection and making change. And last but not the least, I would always say that we have to come out from the self-deception process and we have to go out of the box. And this will be happening only when we underline the focus of the disaster risk management as a kind of a compassion and love. If it is there as a kind of a core value of disaster risk management 2047. If when we start with this as a kind of a mission, then definitely we don't have to wait even up to 2047. We can achieve those targets and making society resilience much before that. Thank you very much, and I appreciate Dr. Diana's comments on that, the UNDRR, which has been very, very kind of a useful and needful at the time of this for setting country direction for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Santosh Kumar. As from Diana's keynote also, the emphasis on the inclusiveness and looking at the social capital has emerged as one of the important aspects. So you also touched upon that how do we look at the social capital framework through your deliberation, and how do we really integrate this into the weaving the resilience at local level. So thank you very much for your key remarks. Now I would be pleased to invite the Honorable Vice Chairman of Sikkim State Disaster Management Authority, Professor V.K. Sharma, one of the pioneers of disaster management in the country, Subhash Chandra Bose awardee. So let us welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Professor Anil Kumar. Shri Rajen Singh ji, member NDMA, my colleague Professor Anil Gupta ji, Professor Santosh ji, and distinguished guests who are attending this program from here. Very impressive, keynote by Dr. Diana Patricia, who is heading UNDRR. Actually, she is the Deputy Chief of UNDRR in Asia Pacific. And I think after speaking from Diana, it is very difficult to give any remark, on that. But my colleagues, and particularly Anil Gupta ji, very briefly summarized what she said, and how, this 10-minute address was actually agenda for coming years for all of us. Shri Rajen Singh ji, he gave the prospects from India point of view. My colleague, Professor Santosh Kumar, he was speaking on, impact of these disasters, and particularly he is specialized in social sector, and he raised, all these important issues. I would not like to repeat them. Ma'am, you rightly said that the Asia Pacific and in fact this region, because of geographical our location, because of, yes, we face maximum brunt of natural disasters, we have maximum death, but I think after RDNDR, this region has learned a lot. And I can say about India that we have learned a lot, in last 2 decades, and we have come, in a long way. And I fully agree with you that we can learn from each other, and this we are doing. COVID, you rightly said that the entire world, learned a lot, and India, I think, the level of preparedness, this was really a new challenge for us, but our preparedness, our response, in fact, even, I will say that even international cooperation, we set example, for the whole world. For example, vaccine, and so we try to assist, as many countries as possible. So I think international cooperation, which is an important aspect in DRR, India became an example of that. I fully agree with you that new challenges are there now. Climate change, there are multiple disasters, cascading impact, and this we are seeing, now it is visible and the impact is visible. And global level, you have given a picture, but I will say that in India, we are thinking on these lines, and NIDM and all the organizations, who are in capacity building or in risk assessment, particularly science and technology, who is mainly responsible for research part and all that. So we are all conscious about it, and we are talking about climate smart governance. We are talking about, impact of early warning and doing our best. I think the impact of climate change, there are good number of sessions, and I was seeing that in last 3 days, I think they have covered many important aspects, though it is a vast subject and you cannot cover each and everything, but definitely most of the issues are covered, in last 3 days. So I would not like to repeat that. I am representing Sikkim also here, and very rightly said, I am Vice Chair of Sikkim since last 10 years. And I can say that in India, I think we are more conscious, at state level, at district level, and going beyond that, we are going up to the community. I can give example of Sikkim that our senior officers, who are attending this program since last 3 days, they will bear with me that the state is very conscious about the vulnerability, about the risk, and we are, updating every year that and seeing that, what is the impact of climate change. We are already vulnerable for earthquake, landslide, Gulf, etc. And the type of preparedness, we are setting example for Himalayan states. We know that we are having number of glaciers, glacial lakes, and these glacial lakes are increasing in size. They are going to burst, some of them. And I think the way Sikkim is working, the mainstreaming basically, Department of Science and Technology and SSDMA, they are working together, just for this thing. And recently, few years back, they give example which is being appreciated by Nepal, Bhutan, and other countries about the Gulf. Now the resilient infrastructure, our Honorable Prime Minister has given a very good idea which is supported by UK and now many countries, this coalition of disaster resilient infrastructure. So Sikkim has come forward and we are mapping health sector and we are seeing that what can be done, in health sector. And we are seeing with the help of CDRI and WHO, we are doing this assessment that how we can improve this sector. Then we are going for other sectors as well which are going to be affected by natural disasters. So I think that I can say that state level preparedness, state level consciousness, and my friend Dr. Agrawal is sitting here, we are taking help, from the experts, and because building, we have a lot of tourism and hotel industry, this is a very booming thing. We are taking help from them that what is the modern construction, how we can use, the modern technology. So I think the state is very conscious about all these things. We know that what are the coming disasters like forest fire, etc., and doing sort of preparedness for these disasters which are new to us. There are many other things, for example, crop failure, etc., and state is taking note of that so that, we can think of this thing. Last thing is that I congratulate, NIDM for, organizing this, because this is giving direction to a state like Sikkim that we should also prepare a plan for 2047. We were thinking about, decadal this thing, but I think this is the time when we can think 25 years, and from 25 years from today, what will be the new challenges and how we can face that. So this idea came, from this conference, and I assure you that we will be preparing a plan for our state, that what will be our roadmap for 2047. And to NDMA, we will give this roadmap, and so that the other state can also think beyond, 5 years or 10 years and can think of this thing. Last point is that G20 is, I think, a very, very good opportunity for this country. And I request, because many experts are sitting here, the paper which is prepared by NDMA on G20 on disaster risk reduction, I think this is amazing, thought, and you should read that, give your ideas, so that India can project, our plan for, for 2047, and can project it in the G20. NIDM, which is part of, Government of India, I think they are assisting NDMA in that, and whatever assistance required from a state level, and we are a small state, but we will be very happy to contribute in G20 programs, whatever, in case it is needed. Thank you very much, and once again, thank you, Patricia, for wonderful keynote address this morning, and you have set, agenda for recommendations actually, because all your points are nothing but recommendations, I see. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor V.K. Sharma. So thanks to all the three dignitaries for their very important remarks, because that helps outlining the kind of a key context for developing the framework. Thank you so much to UNDRR South Asia Office and Dr. Patricia for this very, very useful keynote address this morning. As I referred in that this is the third day of this discourse, RESSUMMIT Vision 2047, and the third day is dedicated towards outlining the key context for developing the future roadmap for DRR. And India's DRR roadmap matters a lot. It has a lot of strategic significance, because India's vision for DRR is not only limited to the people of India. India's DRR roadmap is primarily in promoting DRR across the region. So it also outlines the needs and the means and ways of international cooperation among various agencies, institutions, and various other actors, and disaster risk reduction is something which cannot be achieved without a very effective cooperation at all the levels. So thank you so much, each one in this very important panel for a keynote session that we call at Shikhar Vyakhyan. Shikhar means apex and Vyakhyan is lecture. So thank you so much, Dr. Diana Patricia, for this, and thank you so much for all the three dignitaries who have addressed this, Professor Santosh Kumar, Professor V.K. Sharma sir, and Sri Rajan Singh ji. Now over to the Master of Ceremony for taking the agenda forward.
Thank you, Dr. May I leave now?
Yes, sir. You may kindly leave. Thank you once again, sir, for being part of this. Thank you, Diana ma'am, for joining us and being part of this. Thank you very much indeed.
Goodbye.
And also thanking our eminent speakers, our distinguished dignitaries on the dais for the opening session of Day 3 of RESUMMIT 2047. I would now request Major General Bindal, former ED NIDM, to kindly do the honors of presenting a token of gratitude and appreciation to Professor V.K. Sharma, Vice Chairman, Sikkim State Disaster Management Association, and Senior Professor, IIPA. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Thank you, General Bindal, for doing the honors. And may I request you, sir, to stay back for the group photograph, and also requesting Mrs. Shailesh Agarwal, Dr. Shailesh Agarwal, BMTPC, to do the honors of presenting a token of gratitude to Sri Rajendra Singh Ji, member NDMA. Thank you very much indeed. I would also invite Srimati Uma Devi Ji to join us on the stage for, Sir, Shailendra sir, may I request you for a group photograph with the panel? Srimati Uma Devi Ji, we would invite you, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome her. And ladies and gentlemen, after this session, we will straight away move to our next session, which is on sectoral approach and regional context to resilience.
And the session coordinator was Fatima.
Ms. Fatima? Okay, she's at the Parisamvad. She's also handling that. I would also take this opportunity to inform once again each one of you about the Parisamvad sessions we are hosting on the first floor along with the exhibition. And something very interesting that we have done is we have a selfie point there. You can take a selfie, tag yourselves with, and on the social media, probably using the hashtag of RESSUMMIT2047. So kindly give us a few minutes while we arrange the top table for the next session.
अभी आ जाएंगे, वो आएंगे, 5 minutes में आ जाएंगे।
मैं चेक कर लेती हूँ कौन कौन आ गया।
ये सेशन किसका? C11 किसका?